Alrighty, welcome to the 166th edition of the MMA Circus here on BloodyElbow.com and live on YouTube. My name is Nick Baldwin. He is Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence, and as always, we are your hosts for today. I don't know if I can really say as always anymore. I mean, you've been gone for the past 3 episodes. The last time I spoke with you, Andrew, was May 9th, almost a month ago, 4 weeks to the day. It's been a while. How you doing?
I feel like we should have just made it 4 more days, so it would have been a solid month.
Then I guess we can celebrate that your absence of a month. I mean, you're the one who always tells me don't celebrate episode 100. I remember I wanted to make it a huge thing, and
I basically shut it down on air live. I didn't even tell you I was going to shut it down. Yeah, I just decided.
That was the plan. I wanted you to get shit-faced drunk, and never happened.
I just got upset and said we're not doing it.
And so if we're not going to celebrate episode 100 of the show, we can't celebrate 1 month of you being gone.
But if you're not going to say, as always, you should be like, you should ham it up a little bit. Sell it to the people. Like, hey, Andrew's back. A little bit. Yeah, maybe change. Well, that intro should have been changed. We've been talking about changing the intro for, 50, 60 episodes?
No, I just mean like my intro when I'm saying, hey, this is, welcome to the MMA Circus. Not the do at the beginning, right? So,
yeah.
YouTubers can't even hear that.
So. I think that you should change it up just to more emphasize that it's a special episode because Andrew's here.
By now, you may know that I hate change, so it's probably not happening.
To get this show to change its name to the MMA Circus was like pulling teeth.
Kind of was. I mean, I remember how bad you did or how much you disliked MMA Junior Radio because you're a 28-year-old dude or whatever hosting MMA Junior Radio. You weren't too into that. I remember.
Yeah, no, and it's just a bad name.
It wasn't fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's not MMA for juniors. Like we weren't like doing a child show.
I mean, MMA Junior obviously goes back to when I was 13, so it made a little more sense then. I mean,
it didn't make any goddamn sense by then.
There's a reason I got rid of the MMA Junior YouTube channel entirely, moved before the battle over to this one, all of my stuff. So,
you really should have thought about, saving
long-term
that
branding. Long-term branding.
Oh, when you were 13, definitely. But I'm saying save that MMA Junior. You could probably sell that for, I'm going to guess on the open market, you could sell that for $55. Set the over-under at 55.
I'm thinking the over-under is more like 20. It has like 200 subscribers, something like that. So
it's a good name. People are investing in MMA right now.
Are they, though? I feel like MMA is kind of on the way down a little bit.
The PFL convinced a bunch of dudes in Washington, D.C. to give him $10 million, $40 million, some stupid amount of money that they're wasting.
The UFC, I mean, I guess on a smaller scale in a way, the UFC convinced ESPN to give them a whole bat ton of money. So
yeah, $300 million a year, isn't it? For both on air and streaming? Everyone's buying.
I don't know why I said that, but on a larger scale, the UFC convinced ESPN. So yeah. maybe times are changing for the UFC and MMA. Maybe they're, MMA is a crazy sport. It goes like this, and probably all other sports. I don't know tons about the business of, say, the NFL or the NHL, but they're probably all fluctuating. But I think the UFC and MMA a bit more than others. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, I think that even when MMA is at its lows and only the hardcorest of audiences is watching, it's a really engaged audience of younger people that have money. And that's valuable to advertisers. And that's the bottom line here. Like, everyone's like, MMA ratings are falling and it's falling to pieces. But overall, collectively, the television as a form of medium is falling. So the advertisers are even more and more hungry for an audience that's dedicated. Is that audience getting tired and worn down by kind of like mediocre cards and a lot of content? Yeah, I think so. But the people that are still there are still significant. I mean, we laugh about pay-per-views that sell like 120,000 pay-per-views, and it's like a Mighty Mouse fight. It's insane that Mighty Mouse sells 120,000 pay-per-views. That's a testament to the whole, idea that MMA is a big sport.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, we've talked about this before. We don't need to get into it. I don't think 120 pay-per-views is all that great. You beg to differ, but yeah, we could probably have this conversation.
We lined up 100,000 people in a stadium. You'd be like, holy shit, there's a lot of people here. And each one of them held up $60 and threw it in the air. That's $6 million.
I understand, but it's all on a scale. Like, you can't just throw $3 million my way and say, yeah, of course that's a lot of money, but
Yeah, it's tons, especially when the salaries for it was probably $500,000.
I know. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's good business. Anyway, let's talk about these events, or we're going to just talk about abstract MMA forever. You got me back for one time. Let's talk about Yoel Romero. I'm fucking hyped about. I'm going to Chicago, people. Fans of the show. No. Before you talk, fans of the show, if you're going to be in Chicago, hit me up on Twitter at the Clown Kid. I'm going to be there live. We're going to have a great time. I'll also be at PFL in Madison Square Garden on Thursday with Josh Sanchez. A free ticket to anyone who wants to come.
Hold on. Did you say you're going to Chicago?
Yeah, both.
Oh, wow. So you're doing a lot of traveling this week. Going
oh, my God.
From New York to Washington to Chicago.
It's craziness. Las Vegas to New Orleans.
With a stop in between.
Yeah, with the stop at New York in between. And then I'm Chicago on a Friday, and I'm flying back on the Sunday. Both early morning flights. And I'm going to get drunk at the card. Really drunk. I'm so excited to see Yoel Romero. I have a spiritual connection with Yoel Romero.
Yes, you do. It'll be a fun card. Before we talk about that, I know probably the most of the show will be previewing that card, but let's go back to last Friday. We had UFC Utica. You did not go there, even though it was in your home state, unless I know. I don't know, or unless you say otherwise. No. We had UFC Fight Night. Marlon Moraes gets the win over Jimmy Rivera. A bit of an upset, ever so slight. I know the odds were very close, but I think Moraes did close at plus money. Big fight for the bantamweight division. It ended early, 33 seconds in. Marlon Moraes lands a big head kick with his left leg and definitely rocked Jimmy Rivera. Now, Rivera wasn't out cold from the kick. He was definitely hurt, seemed to be maybe recovering, but Marlon Moraes is the type of fighter who he doesn't let you off the hook. If he hurts you, you're probably eventually are going to go out cold or get stopped, or the referee will intervene because he's not going to let you off the hook. He landed some vicious ground and pound, and just seconds later, that's all it took for the referee to intervene. Maybe a second too soon, probably not. I had no issues with it. I'm sure a few people did, but those are the fans that love the bare knuckle boxing match a couple weeks ago, or a couple of days ago. Fun fight.
That was a bare knuckle boxing was awesome.
No, I mean I didn't watch it.
Your tongue.
Yeah, it seems like that was a shot at bare knuckle boxing. No, I didn't watch. I regret my decision not to watch though. Sounded like it was a tons of fun. What did you think about this main event though? Moraes Rivera. It ended early. I thought it'd go 5 rounds. I thought it'd be a super fun, action-packed 5-rounder, but it was a 33-second KO from Marlon Moraes.
Full disclosure: in New Orleans, out to dinner, was going to a party afterwards. In between, watched the co-main and the main event live. I've since caught the Ben Saunders fight and Smiling Sal Malvi, David Taymor, and a bunch of things on the and of course Jose Torres winning by Jared Brooks knocking himself out. The main event was I really favored Jimmy Rivera here. I thought that and I still kind of do think that Jimmy Rivera could have a hand speed advantage in this fight, and over a long term of fighting is going to be just quicker to the punch and able to, put a pace on Marlon Moraes. But that didn't happen, of course, because he basically the first, thing of offense really committedly thrown landed for Moraes, and God, it was like the cleanest head kick ever. I agreed with the stoppage. People who said it was an early stoppage are stupid because he hits him with follow-up shots, and you see him go limp after one of the follow-up shots. Yeah. So that's when that's when as a referee you have to hop in there, not just because he's out or how the state of him is as a fighter, but he's only going to get more and more damage until he does go out at that point. Like there's no recovering. So, interesting fight. I don't think it actually tells us all that much about who the better fighter is, if as stupid as that sounds, right?
No, it doesn't sound stupid. No. I don't think so, because
I mean, one dude knocked another dude unconscious and then beat the shit out of his head. Like,
yes, but in 30 seconds. Flash knockouts happen. Now, I'm not calling this a lucky shot. Far from it. Marlon Moraes tried to kick Jimmy Rivera in the head and he succeeded. But even still, so early on, we don't really know how it would go 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, JDS knocked out Kane in their first one, right?
Exactly.
And we saw how the subsequent rounds went. But yeah, the main event, I was happy that it was exciting. I thought that the co-main event was exciting too. I heard basically to everyone else that the rest of the card was kind of a boring slog in the middle. But like, I only watched the end of it in certain, fights, and I found it to be a kind of cool, interesting card that happens on a Friday. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it being on a Friday, but I said that on Twitter earlier in the card. But there was something like 5 or 6 straight decisions, and it took a while to get into the card. I mean, the main event was cool. I was almost a little let down just because I was anticipating it so much. I wanted a 5-round war because we didn't get that last week in Wonderboy Till when I really thought we'd have a fun fight there. Maya Usman was pretty boring.
What a whack fight.
Yeah, I mean, and so
Smart
I was
Usman
hoping
is boring. He's not an interesting fighter.
I was hoping for a 25-minute war, and I mean, a quick knockout is cool. Just wasn't exactly what I wanted to see, but nonetheless, I mean, we got it. No complaints. The co-main event was a lot of fun. Gregor Gillespie gets the winner of Vince Pichel. On paper, probably the toughest test of his career, Gillespie's that is, but he still passed this test with flying colors. Pichel was a bit bigger per se, but Gillespie was able to get him down when he wanted to. He probably outstruck him as well. I know he did just looking at the stats. Submission win, no surprises there. It was cool to see Ben Saunders getting back into the winning column. Jake Ellenberger, a good opponent for him. I mean, you don't want to throw Ben Saunders in there with a killer, and vice versa. You don't want to throw Jake Ellenberger in there with a killer because they both get knocked out cold. And so good fight matchmaking-wise there, and nice to see Killer be back in the winning column. He's not quite done yet. We know that now. A lot of cool fights on here, especially on paper. But those FS1 prelims were tough to stay attached to, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that I quit on him. It started off awesome. Yeah, Jared Brooks knocking himself out is just instant legend territory. The Monkey King, or is it the Monkey God?
The Monkey God, yes.
The Monkey God. He's always kind of been a favorite of mine since he started, and he's had a rocky start to his career. He was piecing up Shorty Torres, who's like not a bad fighter. If you've watched Access TV for MMA, you've 100% seen a Jose Shorty Torres highlight.
Access TV.
Yeah, they put on Titan fights and all kinds of shit like that.
Titan's on Fight Pass.
No, like Jose Torres would always be on like Access, like Titan before they were out on Fight Pass would be on Access and stuff, and he was always on that other weird promotion too before that. So actually, I think he's been like Titan FC maybe the whole time. No, but anyway,
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but it doesn't matter.
But he's had a rocky start to his career, so it was disappointing to see it go down like that. He kind of was piecing up Torres, and Jared Brooks looked really good.
Yeah. Anything else on this card? I mean, Walt Harris put on a decent performance in the main card. Jean Vellante versus Sam Alvey was boring. Julio Arce. Okay, let me give a few props to Julio Arce. He submitted Daniel Tamer in the third round. Really fun fight, or not a great fight, but good performance from Arce. I mean, this guy looks like a pretty legit featherweight, a guy to definitely keep your eye out for. He's well rounded. I mean, we saw him outstrike Tamer for the better part of 2.5 rounds, and then he choked him out. And so we saw pretty much every aspect of Julio Arce's game on Friday. And I mean, maybe it's a little too soon to give him a top 15 opponent, but I think he'll be right there pretty soon. This guy kind of reminds me of a Calvin Kattar. I know he's coming off a loss, but I think he's kind of around that skill level, that area in the ranking, so to speak. This guy, watch out for him. I think he's worth keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, I mean, both how awkward is it for the Tamor brothers for one to win and one to lose? Like they're both heading back, and one brother's just like out getting drunk with his boys, and
that's why brothers or sisters don't like fighting on the same cards all that much. I mean, the Pettis brothers didn't love it; they did it once or twice. The Guerra brothers, they probably did once or twice, but not anytime recently. They like to have their own cards for different reasons, not just the whole if one loses, one wins, but the whole let's sort of get our coaches to focus on just ourselves. So
yeah, it's a good point. But poor Daniel Tamor, probably the lesser, of the
guy's 0-2 in the UFC, while his brother David, a lightweight, who strangely was on the prelims. I don't understand that, why they would have Daniel on the main card and David on the prelims.
The order in life has never mattered.
David Tamer gets the win over Nick Lentz. That was not a great fight, but still a good performance from David Tamer. I mean, this guy outstruck Nick Lentz, and although that's not the toughest thing to do, most importantly, he was able to defend off any takedown attempts from Lentz. Lentz tried to clinch him a couple times. He really wasn't all about that. David wasn't. I think Tamer here, the David Tamer that is, has a lot of potential. I think a knockout over Lentz would have looked prettier, of course, but hey, decisioning him isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. This guy is he's going to be a top 15 lightweight pretty soon.
Yeah. You know, you got to watch out for Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz is a dude who'll beat you, who'll catch you in some shit. So, yep.
Sure. Like he caught Will Brooks not that long ago, and Will Brooks is
wasn't that his last fight? You know, like Nick Lentz is scary dude.
Nick Lentz isn't a bad fighter. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, I don't think.
He's not a great athlete, but he's like a really savvy vet, and he's been doing it for a while, and he can fight at an elite level. So if you come at him incorrect, you're gonna get fucking smacked down.
And the thing is,
I forget he fought someone who like really wasn't all that good of a like lightweight, like a dude who's like named doesn't like I can't even recall it off the top of my head in his last series. Like he's been fighting pretty name fighters for the last bit.
Danny
like
Castillo,
Brooks,
maybe?
No, Danny Castillo I consider actually a name fighter. Like his would be lesser than that. And he just like knocked him out in the second round because you're just like, you can't
Jason
fuck
Gonzalez,
around.
Jason Gonzalez?
No, that's a while ago. Okay. But anywho,
Michael McBride is who I was thinking of.
Yes, Michael McBride. Yeah, dude, no offense, Michael McBride, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Lentz, you said it, he's not a great athlete, but the thing, we probably talked about this on the program before. Maybe I have with Jed, but you don't need to be a great athlete to be a good UFC fighter. You really don't.
Number one prerequisite for being a professional MMA fighter is the ability to take a tremendous beating. That is not a verbatim quote, but Eubanks Sr. said something like that. If you are a tough dude who can take a bunch of shots and get in there and hurt another person, congratulations, you're a professional fighter, sir. The other things, being fast, being quick, being lethal, those all like determine how far you can go in your talent level. But yeah, there's a spot for you in modern MMA if you can take a beating and fuck a dude up.
Absolutely. Are we ready to move on from
Yes.
UFC Utica? All right. Let's talk a little about Yair Rodriguez versus the beat Magomed Sharipov. This is going down at UFC 228, most likely in September. I don't think the card has been confirmed for a date or a location, but it's obviously going down. And this is the first fight added to it. Now, obviously, there's a big backstory here. The UFC was targeting Yair versus the Beat for 227 in LA August 4th. That's the Dillashaw Garbrandt 2 card coming up in just a couple months. They were targeting that really awesome featherweight fight for that card. And kind of out of nowhere, the UFC let Yair Rodriguez go. He was cut from the UFC for apparently denying 2 fights, one against the Beat and one against Ricardo Lamas, who fights this weekend. Now, of course, Rodriguez has given his side of the story on the MMA Hour a couple of weeks ago, saying none of that is true, and you'd have to read it. I could read off what Rodriguez said. It'd take a while though, but he basically denied what Dana White said and said there's just miscommunication and he still wants to fight, all of that. But then all of a sudden, he's back. Well, how kind of crazy is this? He was cut like a week, 2 weeks ago maybe, and now he's booked against the Beat for September.
I don't know. Is it all that crazy? It seems kind of right up the UFC's alley to
I think it's
strong arm someone like this, and for an what's his name, Abdelaziz fighter, like Zabit, to basically handpick a matchup that he has to get, and then if the other fighter puts up any kind of stink about it at all of a sudden Dana White's going on his like a UFC branded podcast to tell everyone about how he's cut.
So then
this is some ridiculous, silly power play shit because they know they have power over Yair Rodriguez coming off the loss. And sure, he's a prospect, but who's going to promote that prospect the best? And if everyone in MMA, who has the power to make him actually become, any kind of star or make a title that like makes money? It's probably the UFC. And I don't think it was all that true of a story. I think that Dana White announced that in the media because like Dana White could say that, but there's probably like contractual obligations and paperwork that has to get filed to like actually cut someone. That probably takes time. probably around the amount of time it took everyone to kind of figure out that, hey, we're going to actually not cut you, and let's go back to the negotiating table. Because they didn't just all of a sudden agree to something. You know, they were probably at the negotiating table, and Dana White pops on a podcast. It's like, yeah, he's cut. Fuck him.
Maybe. I mean, I know multiple MMA reporters did say that they had learned that, or even Rodriguez's camp said that the UFC had called him and said, you know, we plan to release you. So maybe the papers weren't filed, maybe the dotted lines weren't signed, but their intentions apparently were to release Yair Rodriguez from his contract.
Do you think that Yair Rodriguez shopped himself around and was like, oh, I'm not worth that much money at all, really, when it comes down to it? I'll go back to the UFC, see what I can get.
I kind of think so. Unfortunately, because that sucks, because fighters just can't make much money elsewhere other than maybe a Bellator. But
maybe Yair has a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, he, as far as I know, I mean, just actually thinking about it, I'm sure you can find his pretty recent numbers, but I'm sure, I mean, as a tough Latin America guy, he seemed to have a lot of potential for a long time, still does. He has a good contract with the UFC, I'm pretty sure of it. But yeah, now that I think about it, and I don't know why I never really thought about this, but this was basically a you know, not a trick, but just the UFC, as you said, strong arming a fighter that they are basically have control of. They can demand certain things from said fighter, and if you don't want to fight, we'll cut you. And then it's a year realizing, hey, I don't really want to go anywhere else. I better sign this crappy deal.
Yeah. And, you know, I wonder if they wouldn't accept the fight outright, or if it was more of a thing they didn't like the date. They wanted a different, you know, accommodation.
Well, the date did
different
change,
location.
for what it's worth.
So there, you know, I mean, there's details involved in accepting a fight, right?
Was he wanted a certain amount of money to fight in LA. He wanted a new contract, or if the UFC didn't want to re-sign him to a new deal, he wanted the fight in Moscow, and neither was being offered. The UFC.
Who was asking for that? Zabit?
No, Yair did. He wanted a new deal, more money to fight in LA or to fight in Moscow on his current contract. Neither were offered. The UFC wanted current deal in LA. Rodriguez didn't want that, so
I get it.
It gets a little not confusing, but just, you know, it's.
I'm just wondering why. I'm thinking maybe Yair thinks he's a draw in LA because there's a Mexican market there.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Although I'm confused as to why he wouldn't want more money to fight in Moscow.
Exactly. That's
super ideal of a location.
Maybe no taxes in Russia, and so they're just he's like, I get 30% more. Who gives a fuck?
He wants to beat up this new sensation in Russia, Zabit Magomedsharipov, in his home country. You know, maybe that sort of is worth not, you know, some money to him almost. I don't know.
I think Yair has a good shot of beating Zabit. I mean, the ground game is the difference, but like Zabit seems like a dude whose instincts are to throw and stand with you, throws kicks and shit.
Well,
I think Yair's gonna fuck him up.
Was.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's gonna be that's an interesting fight.
Oh, it's a great fight.
A lot of people are super pumped for it. I'm not all super pumped for it. I'm not quite on that Zabit train yet.
I really do like it. I like it a lot. I am full board Zabit hype train, and Rodriguez too. I mean, I've been on it for a little while. I mean, Yair. We forget how hyped up Yair was not that long ago, simply because he hasn't fought since May of last year when he got destroyed by one of the best there is in Frankie Edgar. Before that, he was wrecking
Frankie Edgar way too early. What were we doing?
Knocking out Andre Fili with a kick, or knee, was it? Kick, I believe. You know, a fun fight with Charles Rowe. I mean, this guy has many highlights. And so all of a sudden Zabit comes in, the new prospect who's been fighting, and he's almost taken Rodriguez's role. And so it's just bizarre to see the UFC not try and basically try and strong arms Yair, because he was like a hyped up guy. It seemed like the UFC would want to treat him well, but I guess that shows what the UFC really is.
Well, I think they just like having prospects fight each other early in their careers. Whereas we're in a boxing route, we'd let that fight settle and have them fight 3 other fights and then fight each other. Like 3 other fights that they could easily win, though.
Yeah, we just shouldn't be surprised, though, of the UFC's antics. I mean, this is kind of speculation, but if they really were trying to strong arm Yair and sort of entice him into not signing a new deal and giving him as little money as possible, are we really surprised that that's something UFC would do, and Dana White particularly? No, not at all. And so I'm happy, though. I mean, as a selfish MMA reporter, journalist, and ultimately a fan, I like this fight. I like Rodriguez versus Magomed Sharipov. It's awesome. So I'm happy that Yair is back. I hope he's getting paid, though. I hope he's
being
getting
happy
what he
and supporting the UFC doing shit like this is why we have just like corporate mono MMA that is like gross
paid, but
and flavorless. Sure we have uniforms, and there's no dude playing in a giant, Japanese drum, and there aren't naked girls and fireworks and like all kinds of crazy awesome stuff. Because we let the UFC be the only version of MMA that comes out, and their product is kind of fucking stale, man. I'm really, really excited about the ESPN taking over, but God, every fiber of my being is hoping that this shit gets a new fucking coat of paint on it. Because like, why can't MMA be fun again? Why can't MMA be fun again, Nicholas? Can I get fun MMA?
Well, hopefully that starts this weekend, but I'm losing faith.
I'm not. I'm talking about just like the UFC's product in general. Am I going to go to Chicago this weekend, have the greatest time of all, and worship at the altar of Yoel Romero? Yes. Yoel Romero, win or lose, is the greatest winner in the world. No matter what this... It's interesting. Someone asked me who my favorite fighter of all time was last weekend, and I was like, Yoel Romero. It just came out of me. I didn't even think about it, because I was like, favorite fighter. It's so hard to say. I watch so much fighting. Right. But just Yoel Romero, because before the fights, I'm like genuinely like giddy with excitement, and during the fights, they're action packed and always interesting, and crazy shit always happens in a Yoel Romero fight.
Yeah, I mean, so when was the last time Romero was in a boring fight?
Never. It never happened. Probably. Like my face just lights up with joy.
I'm gonna pull up his record in the UFC, because I mean, on
we're gonna see if there's any boring fights.
Luke Rockhold, awesome.
Come on.
Robert Whitaker won.
He hits homeboy with the uppercut of death. Someone recently posted that gift, and I reposted it on middleeasy.com if you haven't seen it. It's the uppercut that finishes Luke Rockhold. It is the most vicious thing in the world. Homeboy really pulls his hair to like keep his head steady when he hits it. It's really slick, and it's really devastating. Yeah. Yoel Romero's amazing.
Rockhold, devastating. Whitaker, a lot of fun. Weidman, great fight. Insane.
Dude, I was there for that flying, knee KO,
and it's like it was nothing, but obviously it was something.
Because Chris like takes the second round and is like swinging the tide, and then all of a sudden at the start, it's like boom, and then he walked around. He like was goose stepping around the cage. He hopped out of the cage and was like walking around it, and we were all like, "What is going on?"
Third round, so
amazing.
Jacare, tiny but dull, but still super intriguing.
That's probably the dullest fight he's had in forever, but a good fight.
It still wasn't terrible. Like, it wasn't awful.
Not at all.
Machida, he was a monster in that fight. I feel bad for Machida to this day.
Incredible.
Tim Kennedy was insane. That was crazy. That will go down in history.
The glove grab. So many awesome things in that fight. Actually, him against Brad Tavares, the next fight. That might have been a boring fight.
Yeah, that was when I was just getting into it. I remember, seeing that fight and watching it, but I don't remember much about it. And then before that, you know what? Derek Brunson was the first time I saw Romero fight. I remember seeing that fight, had no idea who the other guy was.
From behind. Yeah. Third round knockout.
But yeah, I mean, he's had what? How many fights did we just go through, and how many were exciting? All of them but one or two. So,
and I mean,
exciting in a crazy way. They're not just exciting, but crazy.
Yeah, I think. So he was one of the dudes who lost to Jay-Z Cavalcante in Strikeforce, right?
That was his only loss other than Whitaker, as far as I know.
That's very interesting. I don't think I watched that fight. Strikeforce for me, I would watch them, but sometimes I would just like, DVR them and see them later.
Can't watch them all.
Yeah, can't hit them all. But dude, what a career! He's action packed. He's hilarious. I just like dig his spirit too. He has like a good vibes. I've almost convinced myself that Yoel Romero doesn't do steroids. That's how much of a fanboy I am.
Okay, so let's just dive into this card. Starting with the main event, Robert Whitaker, the UFC middleweight champion, versus, of course, the Soldier of God, Yoel Romero, for the undisputed 185 title. The two best middleweights on the planet finally going at it for not the fake belt, for the real belt. Finally, the middleweight division back in order. It's great. We've talked about Yoel Romero for the past 5 minutes, but does he have a chance here? Does he win UFC gold?
Yeah, he has an absolute chance. Their fight was close, the first one. I think that Robert Whittaker, though, clearly kind of established at the end of the fight, like how he was going to fight, and he had a clear advantage over Yoel in like a lot of areas. But that isn't to say that Yoel isn't going to make adjustments or, you know, have a surprise or two in his strategy this time. Yoel's coached by exceptionally good coaches, ATT, you know, you're talking about Mikey Brown, the same people we laud as genius playmakers, or I mean, genius like game planners. With other fighters, we seem to not mention that when we talk about Yoel. Maybe because we just assume that Yoel's just this, visceral, physical being that just like does shit instead of like game plans. But you know, I think that would be a mistake. So he could definitely give something and show something to Whittaker that Whittaker hasn't seen before. But then again, you're talking about Whittaker is also an evolving young fighter who's like coming into his own and is a real special talent. So he might have made leaps and bounds steps away from Romero as Romero's aging. And this might be even a bigger blow up by Whittaker. But to discount Yoel Romero straight up, I think that's foolish.
I think that's really the coolest or one of the cooler things about a champion like Whittaker, also like Max Holloway, maybe a Rose Namajunas, is that they're the UFC champion. They're at the top so early on, so young. They're getting better. Whittaker is evolving. Romero, probably not. So that makes this fight very intriguing, but also look like a Max Holloway. I mean, a lot of these champions are well into their 30s, and that's when a lot of fighters hit their primes. But I think that's the neat thing about Whittaker. He's, 26 years old? He's not even in his physical prime yet, I mean, if you ask most people. And so to be the champion that early is quite astounding, but quite interesting, because oftentimes champions, when they reach the title, they've not quite stopped evolving entirely, but they're not going to get much better. Whittaker and, guys like Holloway have a chance to get even better than they are by quite a bit too. So that's very intriguing. I ultimately have to pick Robert Whittaker here. I think he retains the title in another win over Yoel Romero. The thing with this fight is that between the two, we've had one fight involving them since their last fight, since July, UFC 213, when Whittaker defeated Romero by a pretty close, competitive, unanimous decision. Clear, though. We've had, of course, Romero knockout Rockhold for the 2B interim title. Then, of course, Romero missed weight. And so what did I learn from that fight? Nothing. I saw that Yoel Romero can hit like a truck. I saw that third round Romero is probably the best fighter on the planet, but I knew those things. I didn't learn anything new about Yoel Romero as a person, as a fighter, as a mixed martial artist, as anything. Just all around, I knew what Yoel Romero brings to the table, and that hasn't changed. Whittaker, as I said, because he's so young, does have potential to change. But as far as what we've seen, I haven't seen anything to persuade me to go the other way. I can't be convinced that this fight will play out much differently. Now, of course, every fight can play out differently. I mean, we saw Joanna versus Rose 1 versus Joanna versus Rose 2 were completely different fights. It still had the same winner, but still very different. One a first-round knockout and one a close decision. Can that happen here? Can Whittaker knock out Romero in the first round? Sure. Can Romero knock him out in the first round? Sure. But will Whittaker win by decision again? Probably. I think here Romero starts out pretty strong again. He's a good early fighter. First couple rounds, he'll probably win. But Whittaker is going to start taking over late. He'll figure him out yet again. And it probably will take actually less time for Whittaker to figure out Romero, his funky style, his weird movement, just because he's fought him for 25 minutes already, not even that long ago. And so I think this will be another decision. I think it'll be another close and fun fight. But if Romero wants to win, I don't think he can win on points. I think Whittaker is going to have too much volume throughout the later rounds and just pick up those rounds, third, fourth, fifth for sure, maybe even the second. I think Romero needs to land something big. Don't count out the Soldier of God. Never do that in a fight. He can be fighting Stipe Miocic or anybody. Never count out Yoel Romero because he's crazy. He can knock you out with one punch, more than pretty much any fighter on the planet. And so he's devastating. He's one of the most athletic people I've seen, but over 25 minutes, unless he lands a big knee or a big kick or a big punch, I think Whittaker's got this, and she's going to make it look ever so slightly easier than the first time.
Yeah, I think that the odds makers probably have it right that Yoel Romero should be a 2-1. Like, underdog, you get paid 2 for 1. just because he has that ability to maybe catch you slipping, or you make a small mistake and an error in a scramble. And Yoel Romero's an explosive, devastating dude. So there's always that to consider. But yeah, I give Robert Whitaker the edge too. I bet money on Yoel though, because I'm the soldier of God, baby. Come on, let's do it.
Fair enough. Okay, anything else to talk about this Whitaker-Romero rematch? Are you looking forward to it? I mean, I guess you have to be, because it's Romero.
No, I mean, if you just look at this card, I'm so looking forward to, like, this card is a perfect one if you are a real deep MMA fan. I mean, the second fight of the night, like, Clay Guida's fighting Charles Oliveira. You know, like,
it's a crazy fight. That's really close.
See that in an empty stadium, and it's going to be fantastic. The next fight after that's Joe Benavidez against Sergio Pettis. What? And then we see Rashad Evans fighting. Like, what is going on? Like, if you're an old school MMA fan, there's so much name value. I mean, even after that, then you see a Ricardo Lamas fight. Then you see goddamn Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem fighting.
Don't forget her.
You know, and then we got Andrei Arlovsky fighting. This it's just all
Mike Jackson, the two best on the card.
Oh man, I'm really pumped to see our boy Mike the Tooth Jackson fight CM Punk. I'm calling this as a dividing line fight. You are either a fan of some fake ass whack shit, aka wrestling, and you're rooting for CM Punk here, or if you're in any way an MMA fan and you support real fucking people fighting, you have to be rooting for Mike the Tooth Jackson.
Yep. Yeah, that's really all I got on that point. Let's go through the rest of the card. Let's give our predictions for probably we'll talk a little bit about the main card, although I actually like the prelims better than a lot of the main cards, so I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But we're definitely talking about this one. The co-main event, the interim welterweight titles on the line. Rafael dos Anjos versus MMA's favorite fighter, Colby Chaos Covington. What do you think about this fight? Are you looking forward to it? Do you hate talking about Colby at this point? Do you want Dos Anjos to win badly? I mean,
I refuse to talk about one half of this fight. I hope that RDA wins it. Boycott Covington.
Yeah, this is, I mean, everything, any bias aside. Now, I know as a journalist, we can't be biased and all that, but if there's any bias in this fight for me, taking it aside, I think Rafael dos Anjos destroys Colby Covington. I really do. Colby Covington is a good fighter. I definitely give him that. He's a very talented fighter. He's a great wrestler. His striking is getting better. It's still not great by any means, but Dos Anjos is just on a different level. This guy can do everything that Covington does, except for wrestling, better than him. Can Colby Covington take Dos Anjos down and sit on top of him for 5 rounds? I don't think so. I really don't. I think Dos Anjos is way too good defensively. I think he's too good of a grappler for that. I just don't see it happening. Let me see. Is Covington any bigger than him? I assume by a little bit. Yeah, 2 inches of reach and 3 inches of height. So that's not shocking. But Dos Anjos is undefeated at welterweight. He's fighting larger guys, and he's winning. And so I don't think that's too big of a deal. He's also a strong fighter himself. And so I just think striking, he's going to run all over Colby Covington. I think submissions, he could tap out Covington. I think Dos Anjos can really win this wherever he wants. Ultimately, I think we see Covington going for takedowns, Dos Anjos mostly defending. Covington might get him down once or twice, but I don't think he does much with it. And on the feet, Dos Anjos is going to just destroy Colby Covington. I like Dos Anjos with a stoppage here. I think RDA will probably pull it off. I'll say in the 3rd round, a TKO ground and pound. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it just because obviously no one likes Colby Covington for the most part as far as MMA fans go. Most people are rooting for Dos Anjos, and I anticipate the American crowd, despite Colby's roots, will be as well. But, props to Colby Covington because he's made a lot of fighters, or a lot of people, that is, a lot of fans have a vested interest in this solely because they want to see him lose. And so I think Colby Covington, his shtick hasn't worked entirely, but he's a lot more popular than he would be had he just been a normal guy. Because as a fighter, he's not the most entertaining, and so I give that to him. I give it to him. It works. A lot of people hate him, so that means it works. Hate is better than nothing. So when it comes to being a person of interest, being a person in the public, Holly Holm.
My wife is like using these effervescent electrolyte tabs. I just found them on the bar. They seem interesting.
Thanks for bringing that into the MMA Circus. We needed that badly. We
no problem. Boycott
Where do you want to
Covington.
go from here? Holly Holm, Megan Anderson, kind of interesting. I don't think it'll be all that fun. I think Holm wins. Are you on the same
Megan
board?
Anderson might surprise us. She's been off for a while. She's a young fighter. She's actually like a legit 145-pounder. She's one of these girls who like fights. You know, she's like gritty and like gets in there and throws punches that you can tell devastate her opponents. It'll be interesting to see if she can land on Holly. Holly's got a lot of experience as a boxer. I think it's a great test for Anderson. If she beats Holm, you're talking about the biggest fight that we've had in women's featherweight history ever, probably, right? Megan Anderson against Cyborg.
Would that be the biggest women's fight in history?
Was that Gina Carano Cyborg fight fought at 145? I thought it was a catchweight, but it could.
Wait, did you say the biggest featherweight?
Yeah, featherweight.
Fight? Okay, yeah. Yes. Cyborg Holm would be up there, even though.
This I think would be bigger. I think people like would be vested in Megan as like a true 145, or maybe I'm just talking shit.
The thing is, Cyborg Holm should have felt bigger, but it just felt like Holm was just being thrown in there. Like a bantamweight was being, I mean, kind of Cyborg.
I feel like that was like bantamweight's best hope.
Probably, other than Nunes, but
and that's the fight everyone wants to see now, huh?
Yeah,
crazy. Tuivasa is gotten a showcase fight against Andrei Arlovski. How bad are we going to feel when Andrei Arlovski gets knocked the fuck unconscious?
Pretty bad. Tuivasa, I'll feel happy for him just because he's an up-and-coming guy. I think he can make some waves at heavyweight. I'm not going to go in there and say he's in the next big thing. I need to see more of him first. We've seen a lot of guys come in, particularly at 205 and 265, come in and look good early, but then really just fall short later on. Never become this top prospect, top contender we all expected them. So let's hold our horses on Tuivasa a little bit, but this should be a pretty easy win for him against the former champ.
Yeah.
CM Punk, Mike Jackson. I guess we're both going Mike Jackson, right?
If you are a fan of MMA more than you are a fan of wrestling, you have to be supporting Mike Jackson here.
Do you like the fight? Do you care at all?
Yeah, I think it's actually fun. Like, why the fuck not, man? This is some weird shit. Who gives a shit? And I bet a bunch of money on Mike Jackson. Full disclosure.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't care about this fight. If this fight wasn't happening, I wouldn't really care. But I like Mike Jackson. He's a good guy. And so I'm happy to see him get the CM Punk fight just because.
As members of weird auxiliary MMA media, we have to support our own. Mike Jackson.
Exactly.
Go out there and whoop that professional wrestler's ass, please.
There you go. The featured FS1 prelim is one of the better fights on the card. Should be on the pay-per-view, but they switched it with Holm Anderson, and I don't really care because we'll all say the same.
There's no inherent meaning in life. Who gives a shit? Come on.
Alistair Overeem versus Curtis Blades, heavyweight division number 2 versus number 4. Super fun. Who's the pick here?
I don't know why, but I'm like Alistair, even though I know like, Blades can thump and could probably knock him out. But Alistair's doing that like savvy veteran, slowing people down, getting them working in his pace, using his kick game. I could see like Blades not being able to get inside as Alistair like throws fucking teeps and all kinds of leg kicks at him and like wins a fight eventually like that.
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think
Alistair's back, baby. Give him the title shot.
Now, I don't know if he's back, but I think his better days are behind him. I think his better days are behind him.
Give him the title shot. Alistair.
Curtis Blades is a good fighter, but I mean, he's a wrestler. He's a decent striker. He's getting better, but Alistair Overeem is really good on the feet. He's really talented. I mean, his kicks are good. His knees are vicious. Even his boxing's pretty good too. I mean, this guy's really good on the feet, and so I think he will be able to keep Blades off him. If Blades lands a takedown here and there, he might not. I think this will mostly be a striking fight, and I have to favor Overeem in that. I know his chin doesn't exist, so if Blades hits him a couple times hard, yeah, Overeem's probably going down like he did against Francis Ngannou in December. But I don't think Blades' striking is quite where it needs to be to beat up a guy on the feet like Overeem. So I'm favoring Alistair Overeem here. I like him by decision. And not a great fight, but stylistically on paper, this is a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to it. It could go either way. At this
point of the night, I'm going to be so hammered. I'm going to be so excited to see Alistair Overeem. When he wins the 3-round boring-ass decision, I might cry.
Yeah. Let's go through the rest of the card real quick, just our picks. Even though a lot of these fights are super fun, maybe for the Benavidez Pettis fight, we'll say a little bit, because that, I mean, should be way higher, but whatever. Claudia Gadelha versus Carlos Esparza, a very fun fight, or interesting fight. Not super fun, but meaningful fight at 115.
I like Adea.
Yeah, give me Gadea. I think the odds are a little wide. I mean, 5-1, that's kind of insane, but yeah, I think she'll win.
It's fine.
Ricardo Lamas versus Mirsad Bektic.
I think that people are favoring Bektic too much. I think Lamas could upset him. I'll go Lamas. He's a really good fighter.
Lamas is very good. I think Bektic might be the next big thing. Give me Mirsad Bektic. A fight that really shouldn't be on the FS1 prelims, but hey, it is. Rashad Coulter versus Chris De La Hocha.
Excuse me, it is two really fat men fighting. That deserves to be on. That's your main card. Pay for the pay-per-view.
Yes, co-main event in favor of RDA Covington.
I don't know. Who cares? Just make sure that it ends in the first round, guys.
All right. I'll go Coulter. Rashad Evans versus Anthony Smith on Fight Pass.
You got to pick Anthony Smith, but God, how have the greats been humbled? If Rashad Evans can't beat Anthony Smith, come on.
Well, I mean, he did lose to Sam Alvey and Dan Kelly, and Anthony Smith is probably better than or close to their talent level anyway. So yeah, give me Lionheart. Joe Benavidez, he is finally back. The best flyweight not named Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He is coming up against rising contender Sergio Pettis, who is in need of a win himself. Do you like Benavidez or Pettis?
I like Benavidez, but God, is there so many question marks surrounding Joe Ben's return, right? So Pettis, I've never been all that high on, so that when he lost to Cejudo and then he lost later to or before that to whomever else, like when he was making his first title run, like I wasn't all that shocked or unsuspecting when that happens. Sergio needs like weathering and new tools in his bag that it doesn't seem like he's ever going to acquire. So just on paper, if I talked about the Joe Benavidez that I know about, that I've seen fight, this is a no-brainer win for Joe B. But how long has it been? It's
December 2016, the Cejudo fight.
Shit, man. And that was a fight he kind of lost. Cejudo looked really good. So lots of question marks, dude. Lots of question marks.
Many question marks. Yeah.
So I'm going. I am going Joe Ben, but with deep reservation.
Yeah, I'm going to go Joseph Benavidez here as well. I don't really know, just because he's been out for so long, as you talked about, Andrew. But I think if it's at all the same Joe B that we saw before, 2016. I think he gets it done. I think he's just a better fighter overall. Better grappler, better wrestler. Striking is pretty close. Pettis is talented on the feet, but I think Benavidez will just be a step ahead of him. And he'll probably start out a bit slow just because of the layoff, but give me Joe B over 15.
What was he out with? Was it a knee thing?
You know what? Good question. I think it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a brutal knee tear.
Okay, that's a way to phrase it.
Because remember, he was fighting Ben Wen, and then
Yes, then he pulled out from that. Okay. Clay Guida, Charles Oliveira.
This is one of the closest fights on the entire card. It's crazy that is. This is like one of the ones.
Can Guida get it done? Can old man Guida hold down Charles Oliveira? Or Charles Oliveira hit him with a triangle, catch him slipping? I think Oliveira could catch him slipping, man.
Clay Guida's a pretty good wrestler, but can he just take down Oliveira for 3 rounds? I don't think so. I mean, Oliveira's kind of lenient. He'll lay back and let you do what you want with him in a way, but I think Oliveira gets it done. I think this is
submission, dude, right? You got to figure Clay Guida's game is take you down, hold you down. But like Clay's not the slickest dude, and he's not getting any faster.
But
Charles Oliveira is a lethal person.
Upset over Eric Koch, mauling of Joe Lozon. I know neither guy is on Oliveira's level, but those are, Clay Guida's back, maybe? I don't know.
Clay Guida's back. Let's go for it. I'll pick the Carpenter. Why not? Who gives a shit?
I'll go Do Bronx, but if he lets Guida get on top of him like he did Paul Felder, Guida's not going to rain down nasty elbows like Felder did, but he'll still maybe win. And so, yeah, Oliveira hasn't been all that active, so it's a tough one to call, but I'll go Oliveira. And then finally, the fight that, it's happening. Mike Santiago versus Dan Ige kicks things off.
It's happening.
Yeah, I'll go Dan Ige, but
yeah, Ige. We saw him on Dana White Tuna Contender Series.
We did. We saw both of these guys on Contender Series, actually.
Oh, no shit. Well, you see, there goes my memory. So what do I know?
Yeah, Ige is 0-1 in the UFC, and Santiago's 0-2. So, but that was also losses to beat. So does that really count? Probably not.
No. That's a
Well,
gimme.
that's the card. That's UFC 225 for you.
Boom.
So many fun fights, and I'm quite jealous that you'll be in Chicago for it this weekend. But hey, yeah, nonetheless, it'll be fun. One last thing I do want to talk about before getting to Gets It Doesn't Get It. The early weigh-ins are apparently coming to an end. Now, that's what Dana White says. He goes on UFC Unfiltered and says, yeah, we're quitting the early weigh-ins. We're working with the commission. It's going to shut it down. Now, I don't know everything, but I would like to think that it'll take a little longer than just White saying, yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, the commissions can't just all of a sudden. I mean, it's going to take some time. I think some people need to realize that. But if they do shut down the early weigh-ins in the foreseeable future, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think that it's basically, hey, we were trying to actively make good ideas to solve the problem and to make this a healthier sport, and it inconvenienced the UFC in the slightest little way. And then they're like, hey, man, we're looking to throw away that because who gives a fuck about these fighters, right? I don't know. Weight cutting's clearly an issue. Maybe early weigh-ins weren't addressing it, but was it bringing healthier fighters to the cage? We'd like to think so. We don't have empirical evidence or any like studies that say it was. We just assume that it was. Like doctors say in theory that would be healthier, I guess, is the closest thing that we could say that we have evidence for it. I don't know, man. We need like real smart people thinking about how to solve weight cutting, and that probably means like regular year-round weigh-ins to be able to like qualify for a weight class. At least that's what I think. So it sucks. I know that some fighters, you know, it was probably that there's more fighters missing weight because they can't just like wake up early and spend all day cutting weight. They have to like be disciplined and wake up very early. And if they didn't, you know, if they weren't sweating at the right weight, fuck it, I didn't make weight.
Here's the thing with these early weigh-ins.
Yeah.
Just because more fighters have missed weight in the past 2 years when the early weigh-ins were implemented in the UFC exactly 2 years ago yesterday, which was the 2-year anniversary of Bisping Rockhold 2. That doesn't mean that they haven't been working. I mean, it kind of does because ultimately the success rate of making weight has decreased. So that's not a good thing. But as you said, that's just fighters still not totally getting used to the early weigh-ins, not exactly knowing how to do it, how to do it successfully. For years, they're used to, as you said, cutting the whole day. But the thing with the UFC now changing it back to potentially, you know, the normal 4 p.m., 5 p.m. weigh-ins is that the fighters missing weight totally are completely less than the fighters who prefer the early weigh-ins. There are so many fighters that like the early weigh-ins. I mean, there's sort of been an outburst on Twitter. I've seen a lot of fighters say, you know, react to them seeing these articles, you know, the early weigh-ins are being shut down, and then, you know, sad faces, and, you know, they're not happy about it. So it benefits the, you know, say 5 to 10% of fighters that are missing weight due to the early weigh-ins, while the 90% others are liking it, like the early weigh-ins. And the thing with the early weigh-ins is that people sort of are misinterpret what they're supposed to do. It's not supposed to make weight cutting healthier. I mean, that'd be ideal, but you can't really do that by just bumping the weigh-ins earlier. But it just gives fighters more time to rehydrate. And it's simple. I mean, you bump them back by, say, 10 hours. That's 10 hours extra you get to rehydrate. Now, it's not quite 10 hours, but close enough, 7 to 8. I think ideally they do weigh-ins on Thursday night because it gives the fighters that enjoy weighing in late at night the whole day to cut. They don't need to go to bed close to weight and then float off a couple pounds. They can wake up 5 pounds over, cut the last few pounds, and then, you know, at 4 p.m., they're on their way to the scales. But if they did that on Friday, it'd give them almost less than 24 hours to rehydrate, which isn't exactly healthy and safe. That was the purpose of the early weigh-ins.
So Thursday night weigh-ins.
Thursday night weigh-ins. Now, it's not going to happen because it kind of sounds ridiculous, weighing in 2 days before.
You know how much people would cut? They would cut the stupidest, biggest cuts
really
you've
would,
ever seen. 35-pound cuts.
You do Thursday weigh-ins. You do, you know, in-camp weigh-ins. You send the USADA people around or whoever, pay a little money.
Yeah, man. We're already taking blood and piss. We got dudes running around the country taking blood and piss. We can't make a dude stand on a scale that they keep in a backpack. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? You can't go to the gyms and, like, line them up. They're fucking professionals. I'm not saying we have to do this on the amateur level. I'm going to say if you're going to be a professional MMA league, You got to sign up your people for, year-round weigh-ins, or at least just have the UFC do it. They already make their fucking fighters goddamn, be slaves to them anyway.
You got to do regular weight checks in camp, out of camp, 30 days out from a fight week. When they check in on the Tuesday evening, just hop them on a scale. It's easy.
Whatever. Yeah.
And then Thursday weigh-ins, and then it gives them, almost 48 hours to rehydrate. That's more than enough time. And then the fighters that don't like waking up early, they don't need to wake up early. The fighters that, or even let them weigh in.
No, but the idea is if there's year-round
Thursday night or Friday morning.
Yeah, if there's year-round weigh-ins, everyone should fight at their natural rate. So there's no dehydrating, there's no weight cut to be made. Everyone should just be stepping on
in an
the scale
ideal world, but it's so hard. It's almost.
But what I'm saying is, people are also going to want to gain weight being like off camp. So you should have, when like you have a bout agreement signed, a certain amount of time to be on fight weight. You sign the bout agreement. Whenever you sign it, you have XYZ date to be on fight weight, and that's it. Yeah. And then you remain on fight weight until the fight.
Yeah, I mean. I don't think at the end of discussion, I don't think going back to 4 p.m. weigh-ins on the Friday is the right it's solving.
No, it's fucking stupid. People spend all afternoon dehydrated, walking around. It's craziness.
And then they get 24 hours, about a day to rehydrate. Right now they have, say 32 hours or, whatever, more than 24, and just decreasing that time, going back to normal. It's not fixing the problem. It's helping out the 10% that don't know how to weigh in early, but it's also making 90% of your roster unhappy. So I don't like it, but we'll see what happens. It's not official, so hopefully the commissions try and convince the UFC otherwise, because I don't think it's the right move.
Cool. We got Gets It Doesn't Get It.
Gets It Doesn't Get It. Let's go to our first one. This has been all over the news, even I think maybe outside the traditional MMA media, your fightings, your junkies, Bloody Elbow, etc. Andrea Lee and her husband. I'll let you sort of explain it if you don't mind. What's been going on with them?
Well, Andrea Lee posted a shot on Twitter of them on the lake, and people seem to notice that her husband, Donnie Aaron, has a swastika tattoo on his left arm. Further investigation into his tattoos say, an SS tattoo that he has in black on his right arm. It's kind of like on the forearm. Then we had some weird back and forth with people mentioning it, and there's being some concern online and people questioning what's going on. And the initial response from Andrea Lee was something to the tune of that people were being sensitive mofos. I think that's a quote. And that he got them in prison and can't have them removed. So, y'all should just let him be. He's having a good life. We live with Asian and black people. Which is an absurd response.
Can we just go with that? You don't get it?
Yeah, don't get it.
Bad weekend for Andrea Lee and the hubby?
Really bad weekend.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they since issued lengthier responses, but good lord.
Sure, they've apologized, but...
No, his apology was ridiculous. He says that he can't get laser removal or cover-up tattoo on his arm to make him look more like a redneck. And we're like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard.
I can't keep reading your apology, Mr. Andrea Lee's husband, when you say you can't get them removed for... I don't care the reason.
Yeah, you like your swastika tattoos.
You can get them removed if you want to. I bet my house on it. I bet my life.
You think they look cool. You're into it. Okay, dude.
Yeah, you don't get it. Sorry. Not really sorry, actually. Next one, Austin Vandervoort. I believe that's how you say it anyways. You might know the name because he is the fiance of UFC strawweight Paige Van Zandt, now UFC flyweight, actually, Paige Van Zandt. He is headed over to Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series this summer. The UFC, do they get it for putting the as they call it, PVZ's man on Contender Series? Do they get it or not get it?
Of course, they get it. Yeah, it makes so much sense. I mean, it was super corny of him to tweet out like, "Hey, I'm Paige Van Zandt's man. Give me a shot at the UFC, bro." Like, get an agent. Figure out how to do that. Like, and not embarrass.
It's not even get an agent, but it's just don't. I mean,
don't embarrass yourself.
He's clearly using his fiance as leverage.
Yeah,
Obviously.
you should be ashamed, bro.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. So yeah,
I can't wait for their future divorce.
the UFC gets it because he's a name only because of his relationship status. But
because we're gonna talk about this and it's funny. Yeah, it's a story.
They get it. So, yeah. Dana White, the UFC president, he recently said that. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I might not be actually, but he essentially said fighters should not, or fighters who want to handpick fight should not be in the UFC. Now, of course, this is, I'm assuming this is when he was talking about the Rodriguez situation. Does he get it or not get it? Or neither.
Gets it because he's doing his thing and strong arming the fuck out of people, but doesn't get it because he doesn't realize that he's destroying the greatest sport in the world. Fuck Dana White.
Yeah, I think you said it best. I mean, of course,
I love you, Dana White.
As the promoter, he of course doesn't want his fighters to demand other fights that he doesn't want and all of that. But
yeah, that makes sense. I get what he's doing.
Kind of well, you don't. So I don't know. Gets it, doesn't get it, but it's Dana White, so I'll just say doesn't get it.
There you go.
Stipe Miocic, the UFC heavyweight champion, in preparation of his title defense against UFC 205 pound king Daniel Cormier this summer at UFC 226 in just over a month, he is bringing in the Bellator 205 champ Ryan Bader, who has never fought Daniel Cormier, but they've of course had their run-ins in the past. They were booked to fight in June of 2015, 3 years ago. 3 years ago tomorrow they'd be fighting actually, but of course John Jones happened, and then of course Rumble versus Cormier was booked for the first time way back in May of 2015. Bader DC never ended up happening. Bader never got the UFC title shot. Headed over to Bellator. Stipe training with Bader in prep of DC. Do you think Stipe gets it?
Yeah, sure, because it's a story, and Stipe is desperate, and that fight's desperately in need of a story. And gets it in the fact that what is it going to help him prepare for DC?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about the story.
How many like big people are there in MMA that are like are also training for fights that are looking for like hard sparring who aren't going to be your opponent in the near future? So like Ryan Bader's a good idea. He's a guy who's looked at him already. Like he's a good body to have around to wrestle with. Ryan Bader's an excellent wrestler, so it's like a good sparring partner to have in your camp. So I guess what gets it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ryan Bader's not the best fighter in the world, but he's a talented light heavyweight. He's probably
to have him be a body in your camp. God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stipe definitely made a good decision by bringing him in. I mean, Bader, of course, has never fought DC. It'd be a bit better if he has, but in a way, they have similar styles. I mean, they're both good strikers. They're both excel in the wrestling department. DC is just a bit more dynamic, a bit more athletic than Bader, but hey, Bader's a good fighter, and so I don't think he can do any wrong for Stipe in prep for his upcoming test in fighting Cormier. So yeah, I think Stipe Miocic gets it. Why not? I think that's it. Episode 166 of the MMA Circus in the books. Thank you all so very much for watching and listening. We really do appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, either live or the replay, go give us a big thumbs up down there. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the MMA Circus YouTube channel, the one you're on right now, down there. If you have any feedback for the show, good or bad, drop a message in the comment section down below, and I will respond to you if needed. Andrew, remind everybody, they've probably forgotten because you haven't been here in a while, where they can find you on social media, and anything else you got to plug.
Find me on Twitter at @TheClownKid. Find me online at middleeasy.com. Follow at middleeasy.com on Twitter while you're at it, Facebook, and all that stupid shit. Peace them out.
You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. Of course, all of my audio interviews are up on this YouTube channel. For some, find the way over to Bloody Elbow as well. I'll have a lot of stuff up later this week, over the weekend. Just my normal grind in the world of MMA. Check it out, Bloody Elbow, this YouTube channel. That's where you can find all of my stuff. Collectively, that's pretty much it. You can find the MMA Circus, of course, on Bloody Elbow. Thanks to them for presenting this show each and every week. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Google Play, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Player FM, Podcast Addict, Overcast, and I believe that's it. Pretty much anywhere else you can find a podcast. So go check us out, rate us, review, subscribe, anything else. We'd appreciate it. For Andrew the Clam Kid Lawrence, I'm Nick Baldwin, and we're out.
What up, Sherry?